Hello and welcome to Soups and Sabers. My name is Jordan. With me today is Ron. How are you today, Ron?
I'm doing good, man. We had a little week off with some scheduling conflicts and such, but I'm happy to be back here with you guys this week, and we got a lot to talk about. So I'm excited to just dive right in.
And we have Chris. How are you today, Chris?
Yeah, I'm doing as good as I've done in a while, and we've got some Daredevil to talk about. And boy, do we have some Daredevil to talk about. So I'm pretty much doing the same.
Nobody asked, but I'm doing all right. Thank you. All right. Let's we missed last week, had some stuff going on. So we're doubling up this week. We have episode 7 and 8 of Daredevil Born Again to dive into. Those are entitled Art for Art's Sake, which was directed by David Boyd, written by Jill Blankenship. And then Isle of Joy, which was directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, if they make their return with the new scripts, and written by Jesse Waguto and Dario Scartapane.
Scartapane.
Scartapane sounds great, though. So, I mean, sign me up.
Scartapane.
That feels like something on a menu. And would you like that with this fresh Scartapane?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so I don't know. We didn't really get a chance to talk much about these at all, even personally. So I'm really curious to get everybody's thoughts because I got a text from Jack, frequent contributor of Soups and Savers, after watching episode 8 before I had seen it, that said that this was better than anything of the original Netflix show. Which maybe put unfair expectations on me when I watched it earlier. But because I would probably not agree, but I do think it is a very good episode of the show for episode 8. Episode 7, I've seen some people really dislike with the way they handled Muse. And to be honest, I thought it was fine. I didn't Muse was never going to be the big bad of the season. I think could they have spent more time on it? Yeah, but to be honest, it didn't look like they were going to spend more time on it before the rewrites anyway. So, and I guess I've also seen a lot of people say that this is where you can kind of tell the new scripts have come in. Mm-hmm. And I think I would actually push back on that a bit if I'm giving my initial thoughts here on this, because I think I can tell because of the direction. Obviously, Moorhead and Benson have a certain style. But like script-wise, I thought it picked up the pieces from the Muse fight very well. With the whole Heather stuff and Muse and the Vigil. I thought they pieced it together well enough where I think people like my parents who have been watching the show and enjoying the show and watched the original show don't know about all the changes that happened, and I'm assuming they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference anyway after this episode also. So I think sometimes we're just so in the weeds about this stuff, so it is that we do know. But the direction was definitely a step up once we get to episode 8, and just like the flair that those two have as a team. We'll dive into the more story stuff as we go, but just, I guess, general thoughts on the last 2 episodes. We'll start with Chris because I'm in charge and I say who's next. And we're going to go ahead and talk to Chris. Chris, what was your thoughts on episodes 7 and 8?
I really enjoyed both episodes. I think 7 got a little bit of an unfair shade. I was like totally invested. I thought Muse, the only thing I could complain about is maybe you give him a backstory and you kind of fill in the cracks. But I kind of think it made it better. That scene with the therapist was so intimidating, and then the fight was out of this world good. And so you got 2 real big fights with Muse. I think that's enough. And this last episode was just it was something. I was kind of like seeing some tweets about it, but I hadn't been spoiled on anything. And I know I talked to Ron a little bit. We had some jokes on the old Twitter app, but I don't think this was as good as the best Netflix show, but I think this is as good as anything we've gotten here, and I think it's on that quality. Like I think it is one of the best episodes of Charlie Cox Daredevil we've gotten, and I that ending was incredible. Dex being back, Bullseye being back is always awesome. That scene where he gets out was one of my favorite scenes of the series, and he's just ridiculously good. And I'm happy. Great episode. A hell of a cliffhanger. You're gonna finish off on a banger. I see a lot of people complaining about Matt Murdock's girlfriend being a little annoying. I'm like, I don't blame her at all for any of this. So, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, two really good episodes of television.
And before
Yeah.
you chime in, Ron, I just want to say I was right about maybe Heather's thoughts towards vigilantes
Yeah.
that I called a few weeks ago. Okay, Ron, go ahead. Give your
Mhm.
thoughts on 7 and 8.
Yeah, no, you got to give you your flowers for that. So it's funny. I actually find myself kind of agreeing with Jack's take a little bit. I know, Jordan, you said he didn't quite agree so much with it, but I noticed a vast difference in episode 7 and episode 8 in terms of like right when we come out of the rip with episode 8 and they give you that shot with the blue filter of the flower and we're kind of seeing things through Dex's perspective. And like at the end of the episode, it's Red and Matt's perspective. And I think about like just I don't know if it was confirmation bias for me or what because we knew that this was the first episode that the OG crew took back over, but like it felt different to me. Like even Charlie Cox's acting, it felt like a little more charged and energetic. I don't know why. It's almost like he had an extra pep in his step post rewrites. Not to say that it was bad or anything before that. And I do want to emphasize that because I did have problems with episode 7 in terms of what they did with Muse, although I might still have a theory on, future things with that we'll touch on after. But I did have some problems in terms of that and the side characters. And it was the first episode that I think, even though I really liked it still, I came out of not as satisfied as I was from the other episodes. So to get this week's on top of it and kind of see where things change a little bit and you see maybe why decisions may have been made with Muse in terms of like, okay, let's get all that stuff out of the way from the old crew. Now we're back in. Now we're going to keep telling our story with Dex. And, you don't want to have 2 returning villains for the second season, yada, yada. So I found myself enjoying both episodes, but I thought that 8 was markedly better. And I think that all the differences were very noticeable for me personally. It just, Disney Plus has this reputation, especially on the Marvel side, of not being able to stick the landing with their shows. And I think that this is not the first, but one of the few that we're going to be able to pretty confidently say we're not going to have that problem with. And I think a large part of that is because they made the writing switch. Look no further again than how they presented the side characters. And we'll get into that in a little bit. I don't want to go on too long here. But yeah, that's basically my aerial view of everything is that I enjoyed both, but I just thought that 8 was markedly better and pointed us in a better direction than 7 did.
No, yeah, I would probably agree that I think 8 is better than 7. I think where I where I would push back on not so much what you're saying, right? Like, but what I saw a lot of people saying of like, I saw somebody tweet out like, the new writers came in episode 8 and pretty much just picked up where episode 1 left off and ignored the other stuff. And I don't think they did, obviously, because like they mentioned the Muse stuff. It ties in well with the Fisk ball that he's having. Like the fact that they've gotten to Heather, and that they're still running that story from Daredevil not being the one to save her and stuff. Like I think all that stuff still really worked well with like what we've built into this season.
Yeah. The Muse thing is literally what's going to propel Matt and Heather's story forward. So it's not like they're ignoring it. It's going to move it into the next phase with, like you said, her not being so trusting of vigilantes. And now Matt's going to be like, oh, how do I handle this? Like, I already wasn't telling her. Now I'm definitely not going to tell her. And it doesn't seem like it's headed in a good direction. But the Muse thing is what propelled it in that direction. So yeah, they're not ignoring it by any means, even if I didn't love how it was handled.
Right. What's your biggest problem with how it was handled? That he was killed off without really
Too
getting much
soon.
of him, or
Yeah, too soon. It felt like they spent like 3-4 episodes, however long it was, setting him up for very little payoff. I thought it was a really cool character that we could have explored more. Like, it felt like the whole thing was like leading up to this big crescendo with it finally being revealed. Oh, he's Muse, and it's just, I don't know. I felt like that moment with him and Heather could have started something like much cooler, I think, than it ended up being, just because now he's dead. Although, I mean, I guess I'll just throw it out there now. In the comics, when Muse dies, he goes to hell and he comes back and like possesses the spirit of this like young artist. And I mentioned on the show, I'm not the biggest Daredevil guy comic wise.
Mhm.
So this was all just research I did. This isn't anything I knew off the top of my head or anything. But so if I get a little detail wrong, forgive me. But he basically comes back and like possesses this young artist and like basically picks up on his work through her. And the last episode is called Straight to Hell, and he did have that painting on the wall that looked a hell of a lot like Mephisto. And it feels like nobody mentioned that. It got glossed over completely, and it was just, oh yeah, that's him painting his inner demons. Like, put the side by side of that picture next to comic Mephisto. It's almost identical. So there's some things there that maybe it was just intentionally left that way on purpose, so they could go to it if they want to in season 2, but like maybe they won't. I don't know. But I think there is enough smoke there to where it's not just a harebrained theory that you'll see on Twitter. This is there could be some smoke to the fact of like maybe we haven't really seen the end of Muse yet. Now, this is a very grounded show. I don't know if they would go that route and start to get so crazy with it, but I at least wanted to throw it out there.
I could see them toying with the idea of it, like toying with it. I don't actually think they play with it. I think they're giving you that little breadcrumb saying, if you want to go there on your own.
but what would be the point of going there our own if he doesn't come back? Like
I
that.
mean,
That's
what are the point of fan theories in the first place? We're just having fun with it, you know?
yeah. But I mean, it's just like I get it, but
I don't think they would do it unless there was a plan for it.
that's what I was thinking. I sticking my flag and planting it here of I would hate that if they brought him back like that.
Okay.
I would actually rather like a copycat or something. I think that'd
Yeah,
be
I
really
agree
cool.
with Jordan on that.
Just because like I understand that this is the MCU. We've had people come back from the dead, right? Like we've had that type of stuff. But just like the comics, where there's like certain tones or characters that I think work well with it would, you know what it kind of feel like, and I'm going to keep throwing digs at this, I guess, is it would feel like Devil's Reign when all of a sudden it became multiversal Doc Ock, and I'm like, what? Because no, but I think it is funny though that 4 years after we were first theorizing about Mephisto coming back, here we are. We're still doing it. Mephisto, he's got to be somewhere, right?
I mean, there's rumors he's going to be in Ironheart. Ironheart's the next show.
Yes.
Like this was filmed back then. Like, I think the camp that I would probably lean in, I think the camp that I'd probably find myself in is that I think the original crew may have had some intention with that and like may have gotten the like the mandate from upstairs, hey, throw this in there because we're setting up Mephisto for our next show. And once the new showrunners came in, that was probably something that it was like, yeah, I'm sure they were going to set something up.
I believe.
Like that.
That one I believe.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I could see that. That's why I was thinking I could see them dabbling with it. I just don't think it just doesn't match their show. It's not Doctor Strange here. It's not a magic. It's not, you're not dealing with Wanda. You're not dealing with the afterlife, So, I mean,
even with White Tiger's amulet, like they didn't really play into that at all, and I think that was intentional for that.
Yeah,
reason.
they just mentioned it, right? They were just like, it's a magical amulet, like it exists in this.
We don't
but
see
yeah,
like the magic starts going through them and everything. Yeah, we don't see anything like that.
No. Resurrecting people, I think is one of those steps that I'm usually pro comic accuracy for a lot of stuff. I'm also pro adaptations for a lot of stuff, right? But I think there's a lot of times where I will say, "Oh, that happened in the comics," and people will say, "Doesn't mean it's good." And for most of
Yeah.
those things, I'd be like, "But it is good."
Mm.
Resurrecting people endlessly would be one of those things where I'm like, "Yeah, that I can understand when people say it," because we were talking about this in our chat the other day. Like, if you tried to do something with um messing with the end of Endgame,
Mhm.
uh, or like let's say the Skrull invasion, and you're revealing people are Skrulls that are not. There was people upset with that in the comics because they're like, so the last like 50 issues I read of this character was a Skrull. Like, it makes you like almost get taken out of the story a bit, where you're like,
Mhm.
what? Like, so in this case, let's say Muse comes back, then you have like, how does that like, how would that continue in the sense of like Heather, who thought she had killed him, and so now like it's a little different because in this, like you said, he might be like influencing another person, but I think in that case they would take that but have it just be copycat,
Mhm.
like a copycat one, and
Just
like
cut that whole part out. Yeah, that makes it
yeah, yeah,
fantastic. Mm.
yeah. Um, but that's what we're here for, and I appreciate you, Ron, for saying that you did not actually like break out the comics for it. We're very open. Like, I don't like to be posers, and we're very open about what
No,
we actually read and
yeah.
what we research. So
It's better. There's nothing worse than like trying to act like you know something and then like somebody calls you out and it's like like we've all been there before, I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah. In
You know
school,
what I
yeah,
mean?
you're like,
In
I
school,
totally
yeah,
read
that's what I was
the
just gonna say.
assignment.
Yeah, like in school, it's like to see that movie. Oh yeah, it's a totally. You know what I mean? Like we all had those moments, and it's way better to just be upfront. It's like if I would much rather people watch us for being genuine than to watch
Right,
us
right.
for something they think we are. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Honestly, though, that is one of the things I'm looking forward to as a teacher is screwing with a kid I know didn't read the assignment. I'd be like, "So, what did you think about that one scene? Oh, yeah, explain more about that." And just watching the whole room know that he's in trouble.
Like when the Raiders sent Jamarcus Russell with the videotape with nothing on it, and they're like, "Did you watch the tape?" And they're like, "Yeah, I saw it all." And there's nothing on the
Oh,
tape.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There's nothing on there.
Hey, what did we learn today?
Yeah.
With the Heather stuff, I don't know if it's just because that's where I'm really curious about, is because I was kind of thinking maybe I forget what I said on the episode. I don't know if I said she was always anti-vigilant or if something would happen with the Muse thing that makes her anti-vigilant. I think I kind of covered both bases on that. But that's what we're kind of seeing here, right? Like I'll say one line that I really liked in episode 7 by Muse is when he says, like, and I bet you're thinking like, can you get to the door fast enough or whatever, very chilling there. But, she ends up with this run-in with Muse. She ends up having to kill him. She's struggling with that too. Like, obviously this guy was no good, and she's sitting there telling, Matt in episode 8, like, I killed him. Like, that's, like, it's messing with her. On top of that, I just love this. This is what secret identities are for, and I love when characters have them. The MCU doesn't have a lot of secret identities. We now have Spider-Man's back, of course, but like Tony, and the end of his movie is I am Iron Man. Everybody knew Captain America was Steve Rogers. Thor is literally Thor, right? Like, there is no like secret identity except for a few characters now. But for a while, MCU was very adverse to them. What I like about this is when you have that, as we're sitting here dealing with it, we know that he is Daredevil, and when he's almost slipping up that he knows stuff that he shouldn't know, or he said, I thought Daredevil is the one that saved you, and she's like, but he was there for his own ego, really, like, not for me. We know he went there to save Heather because it's him. He loves her, right? Like, so he goes to save her. But for her, she's just thinking like, this is two vigilantes battling it out, and I have nothing to do with it, and I'm kind of caught in the middle. I just love that with Secret Identity. So I really wish we'd get more of it. And if the rumors are true about season 2, then we may not get much more Secret Identities to begin with.
Yeah. We've seen some set pictures. What were you referring to in particular? I must have missed something there.
I don't know. I saw some set pictures out there, and somebody was like, "Oh, it seems like they're going the route of him being outed."
Okay, so they're gonna do that. Okay.
That's what they think. I mean, look, we could be wrong or whatever, but it does kind of feel like maybe they're building to that in this episode anyway. When like Fisk knows, of course, right? And
Vanessa.
And Vanessa
there will be consequences if you come back. So
yeah, and you know, I don't know. Dex is out, right? So I mean, like there are some people out there that do know and will be maybe especially with Fisk being mayor, and like you said, Chris, with the consequences, might be like, hey, I'm outing you now because you came out. Now, would he do that after the guy just took a bullet for him? I don't know, right? That's pretty hardcore.
Fisk does not care.
I don't know. I think they do have some sort of weird, like, respective, like they respect each other at that level a bit, or else he would have already outed him.
He thinks he's being a dumb hero taking one for his heroic whims. He does not. He appreciates it maybe, but he doesn't. He's not going to hold Matt in this high regard all of a sudden. He's not going to be like, "You saved my life, I owe you one."
So I think I can play devil's advocate for both of your points here, because I think with Chris, you can make the point that when we saw that sort of common respect between them and, you know, meeting in the diner and all that stuff, that was when he was Wilson Fisk. And when we see, by the time we get to this episode in particular, the white suit is back. He is Kingpin. The best indication of that is the confrontations that he has with, forgetting the guy's name, but the swordsman that we know him as the swordsman. He was in Hawkeye. Jack. Yes. So the first time that he has this conversation with Fisk about, like, you know, maybe supporting his cause and all that stuff, Jack very much is in control of the conversation and is the one basically telling him how it's going to be. Whereas we see in this episode, he's not dealing with Fisk anymore. He's dealing with Kingpin, and that is a much different conversation. So I can see where you're coming from, Chris, but also on your side, Jordan, there is a very interesting thing there of now Matt has made it known to Vanessa that he knows that she is behind what happened to Foggy. If that is 100% true, again, we're led to believe that. I think the reasoning behind it was a little shoddy with the whole, like, wait a minute, he wouldn't have been drinking this whiskey. He must have been celebrating. And then he was celebrating. So somebody must have, this had to be Fisk. It felt a little too quickly point A to point B for me, but it does set up an interesting situation to where, say, Vanessa's like, okay, this dude knows this about me, so we have to kill him. And Fisk is like, well, I can't. He saved my life. You know what I mean? So there's an interesting sort of dynamic between them that could be set up if they go Jordan's route. So both, I think that no matter which of you ends up being right, I think there's an interesting story to spin from it.
I think Vanessa is more likely to ruin Matt's life than Fisk for that reason. But I still don't think Fisk is going to be like, have any warm feeling at all towards Matt Murdock. I mean, if anything, he's going to say, I guess this makes us even.
Maybe.
So, I don't know, because I kind of sit in the... Kingpin is known for a long time that Matt is Daredevil and hasn't let it slip, even when he was the Kingpin and when he was at that level. So I don't know. Now it is different because he is the mayor and he has this initiative, and
he's hunting. Yeah, I was gonna say he was never hunting down vigilantes before this. Like, specifically, he was in Daredevil, but like not specifically like making a mantle as the mayor. Like, vigilantes out of here, all of them. Like that, you know, that changes things a lot.
But I will say for the Vanessa thing, I think it does work. Yeah, maybe the Foggy part of it wasn't, but I don't know. I liked that the fact that it was a kind of like a Columbo movement for Matt, where he was able to put together like, oh, he wouldn't be drinking that unless if he was celebrating something. Like that is not his drink. That is his go-to celebration drink. Why would he have been celebrating something? He knew he was going to win. And what we do know with Foggy's case, it was with Red. It was about the Red Hook stuff that they are, been focusing on this season. We knew that when we were talking about earlier in the season. We're like, where does this stuff keep popping up? Well, this episode started out with Fisk also getting like approval, or that they're moving forward with the Red Hook stuff as well. So it does seem like I think it is for sure Vanessa who did do it. I know you were like kind of putting that out there of maybe we don't know because we don't, but I do think it is. She probably realized Foggy was going to be bringing this down and wanted to get out in front of that, so that way she could keep her little Red Hook district going. I'm really curious on how it's going to play out with Vanessa. She now saw that Fisk had Adam. Now, obviously, he didn't. This is where Fisk is kind of like almost like a child, I would say, where he's like, I beat the hell out of him, but I didn't kill him. And that's what I said I wasn't going to do. So you have to forgive me. You have to forgive me for beating the crap out of him because I did not kill him. Okay. And that's showing growth. That is me growing as a person. Like that's what he sounds like. And I don't know if she's still on board with that. We've had this kind of riff with those two throughout the season. She even asks him like, then why did you throw it away and like become mayor pretty much, so she's still not really understanding that. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of like when Vanessa is evil, right? Compared to like when she was. I thought one thing that really worked in the original series, and this kind of, I guess, even though season 3 is my favorite, it kind of starts in season 3 where she starts sliding down a bit, right? But in those original seasons, like seasons 1 and 2, really, she just seems to be like a person that fell in love with a guy for who he was.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that he was evil, right?
The mob wives sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, now of course
when he doesn't work is work, when he comes home, it's home. Yeah.
Right. She's complicit in it, obviously, because she seems to like that. And at this point, she's taken over that, right? But I prefer that type of Vanessa more than like I'm mob boss Vanessa. So now she put the hit out on Foggy. I just really wonder how this is all gonna play out for her and like Fisk. Is he gonna be like, hey, good move? Or is that like a you're actually the one that first breached the rules I had with Daredevil, and now that's putting me in a bad spot? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because like that's the whole reason they are like they had this whole thing of like not going after each other type of thing. Well, she did, right? When Foggy gets killed. So I don't know. I'm curious to see where Vanessa goes. Is she like the big bad of the season, or is it still Wilson?
I like Vanessa being the big bad kind of thing. I like Vanessa being a less predictable Fisk because she has different motives. It's less explored. And she's very infatuated with this line of work. I mean, she's obviously taken over, but she's always thought the worst parts of Fisk were the best parts of Fisk. We even talked about it in an earlier episode where it's like, this is exactly what you wanted. So, yeah, I like it when Vanessa is a player because it adds an extra element of oh snap, and especially when they're at odds and you don't know how in sync they are. I think it makes a lot of really cool story possibilities.
Yeah, and I think at this point there's no putting that toothpaste back in the tube in terms of like she is like a kingpin, no pun intended, like very much so in the city, pulling the strings. So you guys are under the understanding that Fisk doesn't know that she is behind Foggy's death, or what do you think?
I
I
don't
don't think he
know.
knows.
Yeah,
I personally don't think he knows. I think there was a separation between the two businesses, the mayor and this stuff, and um, even before that, they were a little bit estranged. So you
I
see
mean,
him
because
in
he was
like,
gone when the
yeah.
foggy thing happened. I mean,
So
Oh, true. Yeah.
and
so
I think with how like when he's dancing with her, he says like, "Does he know you did this?" And then she kind of retorts back with, "Does she know you're Daredevil or whatever?" Right? Like there is
Right.
almost like a, "Hey, don't share my secret. I won't share
It's a flaw.
yours." You know, like
Yeah.
deflection there. So,
Mhm.
and look, he may be totally cool about it. I don't know, but I just wonder if he might be like, "Ooh, that is not great." Because remember, he was supposed to be like this whole going into mayor was supposed to be like a clean slate of there's nothing that can maybe bring me down
Mhm.
in my past with this, but now if he's tied to like his wife put out a hit on a respectable attorney, there's a scandal here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's all leading up to this like sort of background friction that we've been seeing. It's really weird because at the same time they're like mending their relationship, but there's
Mhm.
also all these things going on behind it that are like setting up down the road conflicts, whether it's just the hit on Foggy in general, whether it's this sort of feeling amongst the five families that like, yeah, she's really in charge. He's not in charge anymore. And I think they did a little bit to try to guide you off that path at the end of episode 7 when she tells him about the hit that Luca puts on him, and you know they have what's his face shoot the guy in the restaurant, and it's revealed that Vanessa told Fisk about this plan that Luca had. So I think that that was meant to kind of throw you off that case a little bit, but I do think down the road there's going to become a moment where Vanessa becomes like too big for her britches, and it's going to put Fisk in a place where like he has to deal with it in a permanent way. I'm not saying killing her, but deal with it in a way that's like, I have to get her out of this picture one way or another, or else I'm ruined. Probably next season, obviously. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's like on the surface, it seems like Fisk and Vanessa are coming back together, but you just see these tiny threads, and it's like, it's going to be a problem down the line. So it's interesting. I'm excited to see where it goes.
I think it's interesting that Vanessa and Matthew's girlfriend, the therapist, uh, are serving the very similar roles for their men, respectively. This show is born again, so it's like you are who you are, and you're becoming who you become. And as Matt is trying to separate himself from Daredevil, it, and live this other life, it you know it's it's like denial, right? Whereas Vanessa is acceptance. So it's like Vanessa is acceptance of who you are as Kingpin. So it's like this really cool two sides of the same coin thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Daniel, BB, and those characters who are kind of take a big stage moment here in this episode as well, because um, we find out from BB that she does know that the Kingpin is the prime suspect of Ben Urich's murder, and I'm really digging the what is this? The commissioner?
Gallo.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
fake Commissioner Gordon. I'm liking him because I was wondering how he would react to the task force, and it seems like I like that he was trying to, bring Powell down a bit. Now, obviously, he probably could have done more, but at that point, he's thinking, "Let's get out of here before something happens to me," right?
Yeah.
And but I do like that he stood up for that, and that he even told BB like, "Look, obviously Daredevil played a big role in this. Why are you running with his story?" And she says something like, I don't print everything under my name." So she seems to have some pseudonyms that she's posting under as well. I'll be curious to see what those are, but um, where she's sharing more of the storylines that maybe won't get blowback on her. as she gets closer to Fisk and gets closer to Daniel, who now got a promotion under Fisk as well. So what are your thoughts, Ron, on like BB and Daniel and all of those characters here?
So it's been an interesting back and forth, right? Because we've been like, one week it's like, oh, it seems like BB's like, got her head on straight and she's like gaming this thing the right way. And then the next week it's like, oh no, she came in and just like totally kind of made I don't want to say made an ass of herself because she's right, but like kind of tipped her hand a little too quickly in front of Fisk and got like, rushed out of there. And it's like, you never really knew up to this point, like, does she get it or does she not get it? And this kind of confirms that she gets it and like she's playing the game. She posts this favorable story that makes Fisk look good to earn some more trust and get in there deeper and like learn these secrets. And it's almost like that when Daniel kind of in episode 7 kind of puts the pressure on her a little bit. She's like, all right, I'll roll with this. And I'm very clearly barking up a tree that they don't want me barking up. So let me like play the game. Let me do what they want for a little while and like continue to get in deep here. So I like that a lot. And it's good to know now for certain that like BB's on top of all this. And I'm sure that'll switch, as we round and round we go. And there will be moments where Daniel gets the upper hand. And
what if I posit this to you here? I'm thinking originally the BB character was going to be their version of Ben Urich.
And have her die too?
No, just like have her like be the stand-in for him and not reference any of the original stuff with Ben.
Yeah.
Which means that that could be part of the reason why sometimes it seems like she knows what she's doing and sometimes it seems like she doesn't, is because maybe she was going to be more naive to begin with. But now to make connections to the original show again, they almost change it where like, oh yeah, obviously she would know her uncle was killed by Kingpin. Let's tie that in and make it be where she's been kind of posing to get closer to him. And it could be that I'm wrong and that this was always the plan. But when we're dealing with two different visions here, and where it seems to be like sometimes she's in the show, sometimes she's a focus of the show, sometimes she's not. It's like, what was the real story for her originally? Maybe they retroactively made it all a plan for her to be able to make those connections to the original seasons.
It seems like it. And this is something that I had written down about episode 7 that gets corrected in episode 8 with the change of the writing team. So whether it was like Heather and Matt's dynamic or Cherry and Kirsten or even like BB, I felt like a lot of the side characters, that maybe not BB, because BB at least still was like there and involved and like had a story that was progressing. But it felt like there was a lot of just like characters who were there who like weren't really having much of an impact on things. And like I wasn't really into the Matt and Heather dynamic before this episode. We got this whole new like vigilante thing. I feel like episode 8 did a great job of reintegrating the side characters and making you kind of care. Whether it was that vigilante kind of storyline we're going into now with Heather, or even just those little conversations like the one that Kirsten and Matt have about like his anger and his rage in the office, or the one that they have with what he has with Cherry at the bar. Like that one episode, I feel like gave us more development on these side characters. Even Gallo is just kind of putzing around in the background since the first, 2 episodes. So it was great to see all of those side characters be sort of reintegrated in a way that actually matters into the story. And it's not just, oh, there's Matt's in the office and there's Kirsten just with her one line of the episode. You know what I mean?
And I think, to be fair to the original writers, originally they had 18 episodes. So we may have gotten some of those character moments later on or whatever. But when you only have 9, you need to beef up those side characters more. And I feel like they've done a better job with it in this episode. And I'm assuming we'll get some good stuff next week as well with some of these. I guess, Chris, give me your thoughts on like BB and Daniel here. As Daniel, you know what killed me too? I love this when Daniel was promoted and he tells the one lady like, I used to be worried about us like
Yeah.
working together. I'm not worried anymore.
Well,
He's totally to Sheila you're talking about. Yeah,
Yes.
that was a very ominous line, Chris, before you get into your point. That was a
Mhm.
very, like he said, I used to worry we weren't on the same side. I don't worry so much anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, so now he knows for certain that they're not on the same side. So like, ooh, oh boy, Sheila might want to be looking over her shoulder.
Yeah.
yeah, she might want to be working on her resume too.
Yeah.
Get out of there, you know. But yeah, some of the characters in this show do seem pointless. Jerry really is fitting that bill. But one of the things I like about the side characters being beefed up is you see the task force actually do things other than just that like one thing with chasing Muse and like being put together. Like the guy's hand in the fryer was like a really good example of why the task force is really screwed up. And it really gives Gallo a little bit of yeah, this is a problem kind of a thing. So I really like what they're doing with that, and I agree. They seem to make the side characters matter. You know, Daniel's gonna run until someone tells him to stop. I guess the only one who can tell him to stop is Fisk. But I thought that was funny. He's like, I'm gonna run until somebody tells me to stop. I was like, okay. But I just thought that was funny. But BB to me is, I think it was very much reverted, you know, to the I know about my uncle and I don't read everything under my name. I think that's change of course. But I don't mind it. I find her more interesting that way. More interesting than being a naive reporter that Wilson Fisk takes advantage of. I think there's more story there. So I'm fine with it. The side characters matter, and it's actually a really good thing for me.
Yeah, and I think that she will still have those moments of being like a young naive reporter and like maybe being a little too overzealous, like we saw in Fisk's office that first time. I think it's going to be a cat and mouse game, a back and forth between like her and Daniel and Fisk, to where everybody plays nice in person and it's very like you'll do this for me, I'll do this for you, but there's going to be this sort of power struggle between them of like, all right, now we we see you for what you are. So now we're going to do this. And it's, oh, but now we got the jump on you because we have this piece of information and X, Y, and Z. And I think it's going to be a very interesting back and forth between those two sides. It's just a matter of how close BB gets to the fire before she gets burned.
Well, I think Daniel's going to screw up at some point. I think he's going to get drunk.
He
and
has
say something.
already.
He's gonna,
He has
yeah,
already.
you know, I think I've always kind of looked at him as a eager screw up. So he's impulsive, and I think he doesn't seem to control himself very well around BB. So I think he's misreading how well he's done in this situation because it's worked out for him.
I mean, I think BB will definitely still be naive at times because I think what she's doing by herself is naive, thinking she can bring down Fisk as it is, right? Like even if she's using pseudonyms for the more juicy stuff, it's still risky going after the guy who is the kingpin and is current mayor of the city.
We just saw Uncle Ben try to do that in Ultimate Spider-Man, and Kingpin found out like instantly that he was using the name Ben Reilly. So
right, exactly.
And so he had every Ben Reilly on Earth killed. Sorry, spoiler.
So maybe change more than just your last name, right? If you're using a pseudonym.
Yeah. My name is D.D. Ulrich.
Ben. It's kind of like that Peter Griffin thing from Family Guy where he's looking around.
Peter Griffin. Yeah, crap. Yeah.
DC, BB, DD.
So how about Pal? I think I am going to call it here that he is loving the power. I don't think he's going to team up with Daredevil like I was originally thinking. It does seem like he is putting that guy's hand in the fryer is kind of like a step too far, I think, at this point. So I'm going to call it now that he is
at least for a while. I think what could lead to the sort of dismantling is still Powell, but as of now, he's all in. I think that was when they kind of planted that quick little look last week that we were talking about. I think that was still intentional, but not something they're going to pay off soon. Like, it's just kind of showing you where things could go wrong down the line.
Yep, pretty much agree.
Okay. Let's see. Any character we hadn't touched on yet? I guess let's talk Dex, Bullseye.
Yeah, the whole Dex thing is a good one to leave off on because there's
I've seen a lot of weird theories about this, and I know where I stand on it, but I've seen people say that Matt intentionally helped him get out of prison by busting his face in and getting his, and I do not agree with that at all.
No.
Because they were saying he would be able to hear the tooth, whatever. I don't know. I think
why would he do that? You have to pay attention to.
Why would he do that and then jump in front of the bullet? It makes no sense at all.
Exactly.
I think it's just at his rage, he didn't really pick up the tooth notice, or he may not even know that he can do that with an effing tooth. I mean, I know I wouldn't think about that either,
Yeah.
So Jordan, you're saying you can't shoot a tooth at somebody's eye socket?
I can't. Poindexter can.
I mean, my last name is Tooth. Maybe I should give that a shot. Who knows? Maybe this is like my villain origin story. I'm Tooth Man. I could just shoot my tooth at people. One hit kill.
You're like one of those old school superheroes that just get their name from have their name also be part of their last name. Like, it feels very 60s, like Stan Lee name of well, his last name is Tooth, like Doctor Strange.
I just got a giant tooth mask around my head with just my face cut out. Yeah.
Where it almost looks like a dentist. I was gonna say it almost looks like Marshmallow, the DJ.
Yeah. With just the face cut out, and I'm wearing like a dentist coat. Oh yeah. We might be on some gold here. Yeah, we might be on some gold here. The crazy part is that's not even a wild.
Oh, geez.
I will remove the cavities from this city, one filling at a time.
We need it.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great to have Poindexter back. He was the highlight of season 3 for me. So I didn't feel like we got a lot of him in episode 1. Really got, and not like acting wise, right? Like, he was mostly silent fighting in that one, and like silently sitting in court. Like this, we actually got conversation with Matt. Then we get to see the badass escape, and once again, Dex ruining one of Fisk's like black tie affairs. In season 3, it was his wedding. And here it's this black
Daredevil, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So here he goes again. Do we think we get Bullseye resolution next week, or is he also extending into season 2?
No, I think he's going to be like the focal point of season 2, to be honest with you. I think he would have been the focal point of this season if the original writers had their way, you know what I mean? But they just kind of came in and had to piece this story around it. So no, I think he's going to be the focal point villain, besides from Fisk, obviously. But like of the street level kind of villains, I think he's going to be. I mean, we've already seen a ton of set photos of him, so we know he's going to be involved in some form or fashion.
I'm curious to see what they do for a second season. This is going to be a second season of this show, but it's really the first season with Dario Scartapane having complete control on what he wants to do. And I'm like this season we got White Tiger and Muse and stuff, but those were like mini arcs. I don't expect mini arcs in season 2. Like, I feel like that was a leftover thing from the 18 episodes, and that like those 2 arcs were the ones that were done, and now they're like, all right, let's wrap up this season. And like, I think next season would be more like in line with the Netflix ones of like maybe one larger overarching arc, and not as much like little case of the week or court of the week, things like that. So where do we go from here? Like, let's say let's say Daredevil is revealed to be Matt and he's on the run or something. How would Bullseye play in factor that? Does he get in trouble with Fisk because he's like, do they consider him a vigilante like he considered Muse a vigilante? I mean, because he's more like a gun for hire, I feel like at this point, but I don't know, like it'll mostly depend on how next week goes, right? On where we can theorize season 2 goes, but I'm assuming Frank comes back as well. We haven't seen him except for that like one scene.
Mm-hmm. And now it's going to be interesting because so if Vanessa hired Bullseye to do this, it doesn't feel like Fisk would be very cool with that. And like, I mean, Fisk is the one who had him sent to Gen Pop in this episode, like trying to get him killed to begin with. So I think that's going to be.
I think that was Vanessa who did that too.
Oh, was it? Oh, to try to cover her tracks.
I think he thought. I think at that point Matt was thinking it was Fisk because he thought Fisk was behind everything. But now that he knows it's Vanessa, I think she pulled some
Vanessa
strings.
have the in with the police like that in the way that Fisk does? Because I know that Vanessa's obviously the wife of the mayor and all that, but like her sort of stroke seems
she's
to be
the kingpin.
She is, but it seems to be more in the underground amongst the criminals and stuff. Like it feels like to get that. I mean, and it's definitely possible, but it feels like to get that in depth to be able to like, make moves in the court system. That feels like more of a Fisk move.
Well, that's what I'm trying to think if like why Fisk would have done it if it was him if he doesn't know the whole Vanessa connection.
Because he was a man in a mask and he wanted just to have him killed. And that might be a little simplistic, but I think that is if they were to go that route, that could just be why he did it. Just screw this guy. Could
also be maybe like, hey, this guy was originally under my employ at some point in season 3. He kind of went rogue. Let me just get him out of my way while I would also love the fact that what I just said was his actual internal monologue. Like Fisk also calls 7 years ago, season 3. Back in season 3, he was under my.
He's been a thorn in my side since the Netflix days.
Yeah, so, like that's exactly.
So basically, there's when I was a boy in season 3.
Yes. Anything else?
No, it's going to be very interesting to see how this whole gunshot situation plays out. I think that is going to be the one that moment set up a lot of ripples. It's kind of interesting because it almost feels like this episode in itself could have been the finale to like leave us off on a cliffhanger for next season. And like now we've got Dex set back up and all, and like most of the plot threads from this season have been wiped up already in terms of Muse and White Tiger. Like it felt like this would have been an okay point to end it off on, but now we've got this sort of like epilogue to the season. That's the finale that might even, blow that out of the water. We've seen some art of Matt and Frank in this episode together fighting, like I'm assuming the task force, not really sure, but like it seems like there's some cool stuff being set up. But yeah, it feels like most of the stuff from this season, and it's by design, obviously, because most of it was written by the OG crew, has been kind of, dealt with. So I think it's just going to be a lot of setup for season 2 next week with some cool scenes as well, but largely setting up what's to come.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be anticlimactic. Yeah, I can't talk to them. But yeah, I want it to matter. I want the season finale to matter and like maybe leave me on some suspense, but I'm sure they'll do that.
Charlie Cox said episode 8 was his favorite, and I think D'Onofrio said episode 9 is his favorite. So I think we're in some good stuff here. I think we're gonna have a big showdown with Bullseye next week. So I don't know if he'll continue into season 2. I'm kind of almost betting more of not that they'll kill him off. He might come back in season 2 once he's back in jail or whatever. But like, I think maybe like what we're gonna get is the immediate. I guess the immediate stuff would be him recovering from his gunshot. Yeah. So we'll probably have that, and then him going after Dex. Maybe even Fisk says, "Hey, for this time, I'll let you be Daredevil to bring that guy in."
Maybe, yeah.
because you took the bullet for me. Like he's cool with it.
Or maybe they have maybe Matt and Dex have a conversation like during or after one of their fights or whatever, where like we get like the full explanation of like, okay, why
took Foggy?
Yeah. So that could be. I was just going to say, I really hope that we get more of Dex in season 2. Wilson Bethel has been crushing it as this character, dude. He just like, as you mentioned, even the most of what we've seen of him so far has just been silence, but he's just so menacing and just like with the tooth between his teeth. He's great. He could be one of the best MCU villains, I think, if they continue him in season 2 and like you said, George, flesh him out for a full season. Like I know they did it in season 3 of the Netflix show already, but like give us more. He's awesome. Like let him be the arch nemesis of Daredevil. That's what he is. Like let him be that. Don't just make him a one-arc character like with Muse. So I really hope we get more of him.
I think. Oh man, what was I gonna say? I had something loaded and ready to go.
It's always how it happens towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
He was playing on his guilt complex, where it's like in another life you would be defending me, your worst enemy, like that.
And he did. He did.
Yeah.
He saved Fisk. Because in this version, that's really his real arch nemesis, right? Like, when we look at the Netflix and MCU version of Daredevil, that is his. Oh, I know what I was going to ask. Okay, last bet: is Foggy alive or dead?
Dead.
Alive.
I go dead as well.
I hate it. I think he's alive. I think Vanessa has got him. I think we're going to see him in one of those cells, just like we saw Adam in. Oh, we didn't really talk too much.
What
about
if he
that
is Adam?
Oh, there
they
you
shave
go.
him and it's Foggy.
That is another thing, though, that I think they had greater plans for with the original writers. And then once they had the new ones come in, it was like, yeah, we don't want to keep this up. Let's just end this. Because otherwise it feels kind of pointless. Like, what was the point of that whole thing?
No, though, because every scene with her was reshot. Now, it doesn't mean it was rewritten, but they did have a different person cast originally. So all of those scenes could have been the new stuff. I don't really know how that works. Or they just reshot it. So yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, no, I think I think he's alive, and I think he's alive, and I hate it. So who knows? Hopefully, I'm wrong.
I will hate it if he's alive, which I know that sounds bad because like it ruins the whole emotional manipulation of the season.
Yeah, feels like you're getting the rug pulled out from you a little bit.
Yep, feels cheap.
I think the funniest thing ever is when people saw the address of where he was shot in front of, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is the issue that teases that Foggy is actually alive." It was just the real address.
It's a hell of a coincidence, dude. It is a hell of a coincidence. Like,
oh, I love it. I love that so much.
To be honest with you, if I was the director, I'd be like, and I knew that, I'd be like, let's fuck with him a little bit here.
Yeah.
It's like when people like will look at who's following who on Instagram and be like, that means they're cast as this person, and I'm like, not all the time. Like, chill out.
James Gunn is following X actor. He's gonna play Booster Gold now.
Maybe he's just a fan of that guy, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I follow you guys, and it doesn't mean that we're making a movie.
I mean, we are.
Yeah.
We are making a movie. It's just behind the scenes. Come on, Jordan.
Oh yeah, I should have not announced that yet. I'm sorry. Okay.
The Toothman script got picked up quicker than we thought it would.
At Simpson Savers on all of our social medias, so make sure you reach us there. We've got the end of this show coming up next week. I know you two are going to meet back up with Chris Evans, Captain America, to discuss Absolute Batman. My bad. Not a real fan.
Did this all day too. So.
Not a real fan.
Absolute Batman, the new issue of that with our friend Scott Snyder. Hopefully he comments again on the video.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so we got that coming later this week. And then of course Andor is coming out very soon as well. So we'll be discussing that here on the podcast. Lots of good stuff coming up. Make sure you're subscribed, like us, follow us on all of our socials, and we'll catch you next time when we discuss Daredevil Born Again season finale.